Go. Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Caleb Terrence. It was great. It was a good job.
All right.
Let's try number 5. Why we have to go over this so much, I don't know, but here we are.
Partly it's because of the right error message that we get on the machine.
Dude.
Don't mention it.
Usually it'll go smooth, and then that'll pop up, and then we'll have to spend another 10 minutes just...
We lose all excitement like at each take that we do because we'll get like a minute into banter, and then by the time we're done with it, it says right error message, and then we're just like, all right, well, welcome to Caleb Can't Read because fucking this, we're going to have to do this a third time. Well, from where we last started off.
Okay, thank you. I have not had time to go over that at all.
All right, well, so James Joyce took him 9 years to get Dubliners published, his series of short stories, because of how raw and intense and real they were. Things about wanting to fuck a fat lady or jerking off or just being drunk.
Oh, you didn't tell me you wrote one about chubby chasing.
Oh, that was 2 gallons.
2 gallons. Oh,
not
right.
gallons.
Oh, yeah, no, we already went over that. Yeah, well, with the cum and the, yeah.
After he finally published it in 1914, he was able to publish his, I guess in some way it's less distracting than some of the stories in Dubliners. His story, Portrait of the Artist of the Young Man in 1916, to huge success. It was true modernist writing. It was a first of its kind in a lot of different avenues there. And so for the next about 5 years, he's been working on Ulysses. And since then, he's been having some eye problems as well. So he's been writing parts of Ulysses on giant white sheets of paper and writing in crayon because his doctor says, hey, maybe your eyes are just so used to your glasses being a crutch. Maybe you just pick yourself up by your eye string bootstraps and just fucking walk it off. So, yeah, that was something they attempted.
The more you break your skull, the stronger your brain gets. Okay? You're going to get smarter the more we move this shit around.
Goddamn right. Well, let's get started, shall we? So, this is Ulysses. Stephen Dedalus, if you'll remember, the main character of Portrait of the Artist of the Young Man, and is kind of a veiled James Joyce figure himself. Stephen Dedalus is staying in a Martello Tower on the shores of Sandy Cove in Dublin.
What is a Martello Tower?
That's one of those... That's one of those castle turret looking things where they've got like the
sick with like the spooky window.
Yeah. As mentioned before, those were needed in times of war, but the hundreds of years since then, the government just rents them out on the cheap now, yes. Which is pretty fucking sick. You can actually still go to Ireland and rent them out.
I don't think they're cheap still. There's no fucking way. It's too cool.
I actually think that you have to financially be in a place of hardship in order to rent them out. Like, you have to prove you're poor.
God damn it, this is fucking bull. This country fucking sucks. It sounds awesome to be in prison in Scandinavia. It sounds fucking awesome to be poor in Europe. Like,
yeah, dude, it sucks here.
It's fucking lame.
So,
Stephen fell on hard times. Time to move into a sick fucking castle.
Time to just go to my spoopy fucking castle and, just raw dog bitches up there. God damn it. Why?
That'd be fucking great.
Just picking up goth chicks left and right. Like, just, hey, I live in a castle. You don't say. Like, God, yeah, I do. It's awesome.
It's not that easy. You have to be a douche, too.
Got to be into fart porn, too.
Move. Oh, God.
Anyway, so Stephen Dedalus is staying in a Martello Tower on the shores of Sandy Cove in Dublin with a couple of friends. He goes to the top of the tower with his buddy Buck Mulligan, and they look out over the sea. Stephen's mother passed away 10 months ago, but still wears his funeral clothes. And after discussing a few family... What? Has what changed?
Has he just stayed in the same?
Oh, he's just stayed in them. Yeah.
Nice.
Same. And after
Wait, people don't just do that?
Front, back, and around again. And after discussing a few family matters, Buck Mulligan goes back downstairs. He sings a song that, unbeknownst to him, was a song Stephen sang to his dying mother. They meet downstairs with Buck's friend Haynes for breakfast. A milkmaid shows up, and after shooting the shit, the 3 boys leave the tower to walk along the beach. Stephen eventually wanders off by himself, thinking of mortality and poems and life in general. Quote, Mr. Leopold Bloom ate with relish the inner organs of beasts and fowls. He liked thick giblet soup, giblet soup, nutty gizzards, a stuffed roast heart, liver slices fried with crust crumbs, fried hencods roes. Most of all, he liked grilled mutton kidneys, which gave his palate a fine tang of faintly scented urine.
So you just liked all the shitty parts?
Yeah. If the end of your meal is like, yes, the fine tang of faintly scented urine, you got an odd taste.
I can't do liver either.
This is a man named Leopold Bloom. We're now switching completely over from Stephen Dedalus and his friends on the beach to this man. And more than anything, we're following Leopold Bloom's thoughts. He stops by a butcher shop to purchase a kidney for breakfast, hoping the woman in front of him doesn't buy it first, but wanting his interaction with the butcher to hurry along so he can walk behind the woman on his way home.
Do you have any kidneys left? Yeah.
He wants his conversation, though, with the butcher to go fast, so he can walk behind the woman on his way home and watch her ass. And unfortunately, she's gone by the time he walks outside.
Eating weird meat and peeping out ass. All right, bud.
When Leopold gets back home, there are 2 envelopes under the door. One contains a postcard to his wife Molly from their daughter Millie, while Leopold gets a whole letter in it. And the other envelope is addressed to his wife Molly, from whom he assumes is her lover. Sure enough, when he hands the letters to Molly, she starts reading the postcard from their daughter while stuffing the other letter under her pillow. Leopold Bloom reads his letter at breakfast, which is mostly all about Millie's new boyfriend Bannon. He then walks out to the outhouse, takes a shit, thinks on life, then prepares for Patty Dignam's funeral. On his way to the funeral, Leopold Bloom jumps into a carriage with Stephen Dedalus' dad, and as they pass through the town and pass its citizens, they gossip about both. At the funeral, as the pallbearers carry Patty's coffin to his grave, they pass the headstone of Stephen's mother, causing Stephen to cry. After the funeral, Leopold, an advertising man, goes to the news press for a little business, where men gab like bags of hot air, like the bag of wind from Aeolus. Huh?
What is that, like a...
Remember the guy in the Odyssey who gave him...
Is that in this thing as a reference, or did you make that reference?
I didn't make that connection, but that is indeed the connection. He doesn't just say, like, they gab like bags of wind like Aeolus. Okay. No, that, as we'll find out, everything when people first picked it up were like, what? And then he was like, it's the Odyssey. And everyone was like, oh, shit! And then people started making the connections. Oh. Well, after this, and for numerous chapters of the book, we follow Leopold around town while he eats and drinks, each chapter reminiscent of a tale from the Odyssey. My favorite hint towards the Odyssey was the chapter on the Cyclops. Whereas the rest of Ulysses is written in the third person, the chapter of the Cyclops is written in the first. Because you see, it's a single I. I was walking up to the bar. Huh? Get it?
Yeah.
Get it?
Yeah, I get it, man.
Get it? Well, at one point, Leopold Bloom walks along the beach and fantasizes about sexual interactions. A woman knows that Leopold is watching her, so she hikes up her dress and shows off her thighs.
This shit reads like Horny Catcher in the Rye.
I mean, yeah, it really kind of is.
This because they're both
kind of realistic.
Writes, dude.
Well, they're both kind of realistic in the sense that, like, people are just horned up. They're not really doing anything about it, but everyone's just looking for a little, tush in the eyesight, and hey, look at that, nice woman's thighs.
I don't know.
It's just weird shit. But that's the whole point of this book, is it's all stream of consciousness as well. So it's like the thoughts jump from point to point very quickly.
I feel like this man just like peeped out a lot of ass and then thought other people worked that way. Well.
We'll get to what turns on James Joyce.
Is it ass? I think it's ass.
Kinda. Now, Leopold, in turn, after seeing this woman's thighs, goes behind a tree to spank it during a fireworks show. Now, look, this part, No, listen, this part is important. I'm not joking, okay? It's not important to the story itself.
It's important to me because it sounds exciting and I've been a little bored.
But it is important for later, all right? Now, this chapter is called Nausicaa. Now, quote, "And then a rocket sprang and bang, shot blind, and oh, then the Roman candle burst, and it was like a sigh of oh, and everyone cried, oh, oh, in raptures, and it gushed out of it in a stream of rain gold hair threads, and they shed an ah. They were all greeny, dewy stars falling with golden, oh so lively, oh so soft, sweet soft. Then all melted away dewily in the gray air. All was silent. Ah. She
It
glanced
sounds like a fucking Neutral Milk Hotel song.
She glanced at him as she bent forward quickly, a pathetic little glance of piteous protest, of shy reproach, under which he colored like a girl.
That's...
Flash-licking ladies are all in the trailer park.
No, hang on. That's... You can't just be spanking people.
No, he did. He was spanking it. He wasn't spanking her.
I thought he was like gonna go spank this. I thought he just picked out an ass and he was like, "I'm gonna slap that ass."
He just runs up to her, pats her on the ass for a job well done. Like, I just beat off. Like, no.
So wait. He just spanked it to a fireworks display.
Fireworks were going on as he was jerking off behind a tree, and this lady knew he was watching. That's it. After his little session, well, you know what's funny about this whole thing too?
She's all excited about the fireworks display, and then she turns around and there's dude jacking off, and she's like, "Ah!"
She wanted to turn him on, because here's the thing.
Wait, how did I don't feel like these situations exist. I feel like these situations are organized on the internet ahead of time, and people meet and talk about it.
Well, so here's the thing too, though, is like she never got much attraction from men all her life, apparently, because she has a club foot. She's got one leg like shorter than the other, and Leopold Bloom didn't know that.
So she walked like cotton hell.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So here's the thing. She's laying down on the ground and like showing off her thighs, and she knows he's watching and shit. So he jerks off to her, and then after she gets up and like hobbles away, he just goes, "Oh, god damn it!" Like he's just sad with himself. He's like, "Oh man, that felt wrong." Like.
This writer is really kind of projecting that he has some weird shit going on in his head about what he thinks is
sexual.
Is just a normal day-to-day raw human thing.
Keep thinking about what turns him on. Now,
legs, thighs.
You're getting there. Now,
one leg's smaller than the other leg. Humiliation.
A little bit.
Shame.
Yeah, a little bit.
Are they the
All
same thing?
They can't. Well, put your mind to it.
I've been able to tell them apart. I felt them both too strongly my entire life.
God damn it. Fuck you. After his little session there, the town's population is being born. And from here, a group of townspeople, Bloom included, go out to a bar to celebrate. Now, this whole little chapter here is really difficult because from the first page of the chapter, we start with early human English, and the language slowly evolves to modern day English by the final page of the chapter. What? This is meant to be the representation of the growth of a human being because the baby itself is being born.
Oh, that's what you meant by early human English. I thought he was writing it in cave speak, and I was like, I had no idea that was documented.
But it's very like, thou, verily, and then it finally ends with being fucking normal, you know? It is fascinating to read, but goddamn, it's hard. Now, while at the bar, Leopold Bloom notices Stephen Daedalus is there with some friends of his, and Leopold feels a fatherly connection to him. So when the crowd of boys drunkenly leaves the bar, Bloom follows them right into the red light district. At their local brothel, Stephen Daedalus hallucinates about his dead mother, smashes a chandelier with his cane, runs down the street where he's stopped by an English soldier, insults the king, and gets popped in the mouth.
As you do.
As Bloom picks Stephen...
We've all been there, brother.
Yeah.
Maybe not the exact same circumstances, but that level. Yeah.
I've never been popped in the mouth drunkenly, luckily.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't run your mouth like me.
No, I don't. I pushed you down in a puddle once.
It was deserved. It was fine.
It was, but it was really funny, and you also got my car seat wet on the ride home when I brought you
I mean, at least
back.
You gave me a ride home. You just left me in the
puddle. I was going to leave you in the puddle in the parking lot. No, anyway. As Bloom picks Stephen off the street, he himself hallucinates about his own stillborn son, the reason Molly and he have been so distant to one another these last 10 years. Bloom takes Stephen to his home and offers him a place to stay the night. Stephen declines and goes home. Bloom then goes to bed, kisses his wife's ass, and goes to sleep. Now, the way this
It's booty. What he likes is booty.
Yeah. Well,
why didn't you just say I was right when I said that?
Not quite there. Now, the way this whole next section is written...
He's a warrior, too.
The way this whole next section is written is my favorite. The whole chapter consists of 309 questions and answers about what's going on from the perspective of students asking their teacher. These range from, quote, "What action did Bloom make on their arrival at their destination? At the house steps of the fourth of the equidifferent uneven numbers, number 7 Eckley Street, he inserted his hand mechanically in the back pocket of his trousers to obtain his latchkey." To, "What did his limbs, when gradually extended, encounter? New clean bed linen, additional odors, the presence of a human form, female, hers, the imprint of a human form, male, not his, some crumbs, some flakes of potted meat, recooked, which he removed." And I know it's goofy, but that, like, no matter what, no one on Earth could possibly know these details. Huh?
It's not goofy. It's lame as fuck.
No, it's cool. Nobody on Earth can know these details, but there's a hint that this is just Bloom dreaming the whole scenario in the first place, because at one point, one of the students asks about what Leopold thinks are Molly's 25 affairs, much like Penelope's 25 suitors in the Odyssey. And like this, the teacher's wrong about some of his answers, because as we find out in the final chapter, Molly has only ever had one affair, and it was that very evening. The teacher only knows what Leopold Bloom thinks he knows. And I agree with this theory because as the students are asking about what scenarios and landscapes Leopold is thinking about in bed, the final question, "Where?" is asked, but there is no answer. The chapter just stops there. Leopold falls asleep. Now, the final chapter, chapter 18, is all from Molly's perspective. And it consists of only 8 sentences over 46 pages. The first sentence, yeah. Because again, this is all stream of consciousness.
This guy is so fucking pretentious.
Yes, but okay, now here's the thing though. He's going straight out of people talking romantically in a romantic fucking language and being all very like, "How do you do? Now, would you please tell Mrs. Gulliford?" You know, like all this stupid shit. That's how books were written.
Just because
and then
it's
he
a
just
unique idea doesn't mean it does not suck. All right?
Yes, exactly. And we'll get to that too. The book is in itself brilliant, but it's very, very boring. And people knew that right out the gate. So, before we get to that though,
like probably there's a reason it's not being done like this. Like
what? By
and
multiple
that it's very
people?
arrogant to presume that the reason other people don't do this is because they haven't already thought about it and been like, "Man, that's kind of actually fucking stupid."
The reason people can't do it today is because James Joyce did it. If anybody else tried, they'd be like, "What, you think you're fucking James Joyce?" Like, the first sentence...
It's a tribute. That's how you get away with that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The first sentence tells of Molly's thoughts on her lover from that afternoon, just as Leopold suspected. But she thinks maybe Leopold is cheating too, so fair's fair. The second sentence deals with all of the men in town who she knows wants her. I know, but this is from her perspective. The third sentence mostly details genitals and her thoughts on the powerful orgasm she had that afternoon. Her fourth sentence is on childhood and of the letter her daughter wrote to her. And why did she only get a postcard while her husband was given a full-length letter? Her fifth sentence, the regrets of marrying Leopold. The sixth is the realization that her daughter Millie is becoming more and more like her, and with it, the realization that Leopold sent Millie to school out of town so she would never run into any of her mother's lovers. The seventh sentence primarily deals with her introduction that day of a possible new lover, Stephen Dedalus. And finally, the eighth sentence talks of Molly's plan to arouse Leopold tomorrow morning, then spill the beans about her affair. And in this, she answers the question everyone around town seems to ask. How the fuck did someone like Leopold Bloom land someone like Molly? Turns out, as lame duck Leopold Bloom was proposing to Molly, he, so it seems to me at least, started eating her out. And this leads to the end of the book and how she accepted his proposal. Don't interrupt this part, all right? Quote, "Oh, in the sea crimson sometimes like fire, and the glorious sunsets and the fig trees in the Alameda gardens, yes, and all the queer little streets in pink and blue and yellow houses and the rose gardens and the jessamine and geraniums and cactuses and Gibraltar as a girl where I was a flower of the mountain, yes, when I put the rose in my hair like the Andalusian girls used, or shall I wear a red, yes, and how he kissed me under the Moorish wall, and I thought well him as another, and then I asked him with my eyes to ask again, yes, and then he asked me would I yes to say yes, my mountain flower, and first I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all perfume, yes, and his heart was going like mad, and yes, I said yes, I will, yes." And that's how the book ends.
Okay.
I'm a little flustered.
Yeah. Yeah, spoken word is ass.
Crack me up another, Daddy.
Oh, but they're right there.
I'm gonna be reading.
You have a free hand. Boom. There you fucking go.
Bitch ass.
Don't act
Well,
like you
help
don't
me.
fucking drink enough to
Help
do this
me.
with one hand not looking.
I'm holding a paper.
You're doing it right now. Stop being a baby.
Hold these.
Oh my god.
We'll talk about this later.
I don't care. Don't! That's your nice floor! You're gonna get it all over your awesome floor!
I just cooked that.
I think I just cut out. Oh shit, alright.
You're fine. All right, so the beautiful thing about Ulysses is how much symbolism there really is. I mean, this is an English teacher's wet dream. When the milkmaid shows up in the beginning of the book while Stephen and his friends are having breakfast, for instance, she showed up to just deliver milk, and they were like, I don't know, bullshitting with her and stuff. She's actually a representation that a lot of Irish businesses were using at the time. A milkmaid is the symbol of a pure Ireland. But while she's there at the Martello Tower, she largely ignores Stephen, an artist, only to pay attention to Buck, who's a medical student. This is actually a representation of how Ireland only looks to the citizens who it feels will be profitable, while ignoring the people sitting on the sidelines who truly make the country beautiful. And while Haynes speaks Gaelic to the milkmaid, she doesn't understand. Clearly a jab at how Ireland is becoming more of an English colony than anything. Leopold Bloom is the Ulysses figure in the book, while Stephen Dedalus takes place as a surrogate son, Telemachus. This connection is partially made when in both Chapter 1 and Chapter 3, happening at the same time, Stephen and Leopold both notice the same cloud passing over the sun. To both of them, it brings up a memory of death. To Stephen, the death is older. It reminds him of his mother's funeral from months ago. To Leopold, the death is new. It reminds him of Patty Dignam's funeral, yet to happen. And as both Stephen and Leopold leave to their own respective adventures, they're both dressed in their funeral clothes. Now, here's the thing. The actual plot of Ulysses is terribly boring. No one is going to argue that. But this is a book that you don't read it for the plot. You read it for the writing. I feel that if most writers were to try their hand at writing a modern-day Odyssey, they would go for the obvious connections more than Joyce does. For instance, take, for example, The Island of the Lotus Eaters. Any author would go for the obvious. It's heroin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the connection.
They're poppy flowers.
That's the connection I made drunk. So, I mean, do better.
Oh, yeah, I'm so glad that you discovered that for everyone.
You.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But
instead,
as a writer, that's a low bar.
Mm-hmm. It is for sure the easiest thing. But instead, in Ulysses, we find out that Leopold Bloom has been writing erotic letters to another woman. She sends him a flower and a letter asking to meet up. Rather than give in to the temptation of cheating to get back at what he thinks is his philanderous wife, Leopold tears the letter up. That's how he gets off of the island of the Lotus Eaters, essentially. Or how about the tale of Scylla, the six-headed monster, and Odysseus' choice of sailing past it rather than the whirlpool Charybdis? I feel like someone else would have done their best to have the main character walk between a fucking hat shop and a water fountain or something, you know? Something much more literal. Instead,
it would have been cornier though. Somehow.
Exactly. Right. But here's the thing. Instead, Joyce has Stephen Dedalus turn a conversation he's having with his friends on Shakespeare away from the whirlpool of unfounded theories about his life and move towards the facts about Shakespeare, which are grounded, much like the monster Scylla. You get it?
No, dude. No, I fucking do not. You are going way too highbrow for me right now.
So the whirlpool, it's not fully material. It's not grounded. It's in the water. It's floating around. It's whatever. The whole theory about Shakespeare never existed or that he had affairs, shit like that, those are things without any real actual facts. So while Stephen Dedalus is talking with his friends and they want to talk about what if aliens wrote Romeo and Juliet or whatever, he's like, okay, look, here are the facts that we have on record. We know where his fucking body is, as far as I know. We know who he was married to. We know who William Shakespeare was. So he brings him back to reality instead.
Okay, cool. No.
Yeah. Now,
I just barely by
Yeah,
a couple
I know.
fucking
Dude,
fingers.
it
Pulled
fucking-
myself up on that one.
This
bud.
whole book takes time more than any other book in existence. I swear to God.
I don't know. It seems like it's kind of a cool way to demonstrate like how influential that writing was.
Yeah,
though.
and it really fucking was.
Like
this,
to just like really give a good example of like, no, look, I can use this as a whole outline to create something like that's still
yeah, the
like,
whole beatnik
pretentious
era
and
would not
new.
have happened without this bullshit. Yeah. Now, regardless of James Joyce taking 7 years to write this novel, that isn't when it began to get published. Much like Portrait of the Artist, the book was first serialized in a magazine called The Little Review from March of 1918 to December of 1920, thanks to poetic fascist Ezra Pound. You'll remember the guy who helped out everyone, and then he was like, I'm going to start writing speeches for Mussolini.
the man with the wasted name.
Oh, man, and he was kind of cute, too.
You're like,
It
oh,
really
is he a
kills
big dick
me.
porn star? You're like, no, he's a Nazi. And you're
Yeah,
like, oh,
exactly.
man.
Like, he looks like a cute hipster if you pull up Wikipedia, and then when you tell people, like, also he was most prevalent in the 20s and 30s, you go, no, he was a fascist.
And you're
huh?
like, doing what? Uh-oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that kind of mustache. Well, in April of 1920, an issue of the Little Review would make its way into the hands of the daughter of none other than the secretary of the New York Society of Suppression of Vice.
That was a thing? In New York?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, this isn't like a government agency, so...
It is. It was.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, okay.
Yeah.
That's rich.
Yeah. This issue had the chapter Nausicaa in it, the one about Bloom jacking off behind a tree. Supposedly, this little girl of an undetermined age brought the magazine to her father, and on October 4th, 1920, he ordered a raid on the Little Review's New York offices. So yeah, they were an agency that was just brought up to be fucking like they made sure that like everything was kosher. They were the comic book agency
don't bring
of
the
the
Jews
day.
into this.
What?
Never mind.
The trial was held in front of 3 judges on February 1921. The prosecution's only witness to obscenity was the secretary for the suppression of vice who got this whole thing started. The defense, on the other hand, brought 3 literary experts who tried to explain that the way the passages are written is more of a stream of consciousness style of writing taken from
very horny stream of consciousness.
yeah.
But let's get back to why that's none of your fucking business.
taken from the perspective of the character's thoughts. And it's already difficult for people to read, so saying this guy's kid knew what the fuck was going on? Probably bullshit. As a matter of fact, when one of the literary experts brought up Freud...
Send that kid to college.
yeah,
He's already in college. He's 10.
No, here's the thing. When one of the guys brought up Freud in the subconscious mind, one of the judges told him to, quote, speak in a language the court can understand. So they were fucked without doubt.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
And remember, though, this is... They weren't going to pull up an Irishman out to fucking New York City. Like, he wasn't in trouble for writing it. These guys were in trouble for printing it.
Did Ireland have, like, an equivalent square committee that would drag you off for not being square enough?
It was mostly people that, like, thought, like, oh, this will put my business under. They didn't have a governmental type thing, but it was mostly people just, like, for Dubliners that were like, I can't do this. It's about fucking.
So this was a shitty American exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Currently.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. So it was clear that while the defense was obviously better...
Wouldn't be the last.
Yeah. What do you mean?
No.
So it was clear that while the defense was obviously better equipped for the trial, they were dealing with a bunch of fucking morons. Unfortunately, the prosecution gained the upper hand when one of the literary experts admitted that he probably would have consulted a lawyer first before just publishing the novel. On top of that, the defense lawyer tried to make a point by saying the writings in Ulysses can't be obscene because not even he could understand it. To which a judge replied, yes, it sounds to me like the ravings of a disordered mind. I can't see why anyone would want to publish it. When it was time to read the offending passage, one of the judges said they'd have to clear the courtroom of some of those present, namely the young ladies such as Miss Anderson. When it was pointed out that Miss Anderson was actually one of the offending owners of the Little Review, the judge said, I'm sure she didn't know the significance of what she was publishing.
Damn, dude. Okay, at least nowadays, like, people can publish weird sexual shit or, like, make weird sexual songs. Like you could put out a song like WAP and all that happens is like some little shit
Yeah.
elf bitches about it. Like
Yeah. But I mean, do you think that women still are not being undermined like that? Like the amount of times that I had heard people just from changing oil and shit when we had like a new recruit that was a girl, like come in and they were like, nope, not her. And it was like, sir, that man over there is drunk. I'll put him down there instead. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
I saw a boomer once ask my female coworker if she had to get a special made chainsaw for her small hands. That was amazing.
did she?
No. No, she did not.
It comes in pink with a Hello Kitty stamp on it. Like, what the fuck?
I was like, fits me and my feminine hands just fine. Like,
Sir, I'm Puerto Rican. Oh. I knew there was something about you. Well, by the end of the trial, Ulysses was deemed obscene, and the little review was ordered to cease all printing in the novel and fined $100. Here's the thing, though.
how much was that back then? Don't say it was $100 back. That was shitty.
Well, I was about to get you again. I don't know, but honestly, not a whole lot for an entire publishing agency, I'm sure.
Okay.
But here's the thing, though. The Little Review was being run by 2 women. It wasn't until later that year that women would even get the right to vote in America. Like, at this point, they're not even allowed to vote for anything.
Yeah, no, back they were still like, no, they're like kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
And these weren't just 2 chicks with a successful business. They were also lovers. So it wasn't just that these women were out here in court being all fucking independent. They also weren't adhering to the standards of the time. It's like they're rubbing it in our faces or something. It even turned out that later that year, right after women got the right to vote, their own fucking defense attorney for this case had this to say about them in a letter. Quote, I have no interest at all defending people who are stupidly and brazenly and sapoistically and pederastically and urinally and menstrually violating the law. And they think they're courageous.
Minstrelly.
There they go. Menstruatingly having a business. Like... And urinally.
I feel like you're behaving a little minstrelly right now.
What a fucking douchebag, though. It's like, yeah, he really pulled up, like, he was like, okay, stupid, brazen, okay, sapoistically, okay, like Sappho, okay, that's good. That's a Greek lesbian reference. That's good. Pederast, okay, good. Urinally and menstrually. There we go. I've got them all. Like,
dude,
what the fuck?
Dude, honestly, to be like.
Go on.
So many fucking people still think exactly like that. They just now can't be loud about it. Like, that's the only difference.
And you know what? Good.
I mean...
I'm allowing people to think whatever the fuck they want to think, but if they're going to...
No. But...
okay, yeah, fair.
No, I'm just saying, like... Yeah, no, that is a good thing, but it's a very slight improvement. It's not...
It really is. It's just... But I like to think these people are dying out, but they're really kind of not. You know, like I was just watching a thing on the internet of like kids in like a high school that are like protesting against having to wear masks in school.
Now you just can't pick them out, dude. Yeah. Like, you can't pick them out unless they're really loud about it and they have like the thin blue line thing on their fucking pickup truck with the balls, and then they like do the diesel. Smoke out thing, and then you're like, yeah, I know exactly what that guy thinks.
Yeah.
But like,
it's really weird. It's like that man is just a coloring book, and I know exactly what color to paint him.
Quiet older dudes,
strangely all colors of white,
and you don't find out until they drop like weird little hints, and they always look at you with the same face while they say the weird shit. Like they do the little like both eyebrows up, chin kind of down thing.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. You know,
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. And you know the code, right?
I mean, I'm not saying it. I'm just saying.
The fucked up thing is most of those fucking guys are in positions of management that other fucking dudes have to at least pretend and then suck up to, and it reinforces it.
Yeah. You should punch your boss.
Seen it.
I mean, not your boss specifically, but anybody out here listening, look, man, if you're under 18, we've talked about it before, you ain't gonna do any real time, just punch your boss. It's fine. You work at the mall. You think you can't go across the fucking food court and work at Sbarro? You'll be fine.
Also, the more of us that get arrested, the less scary it'll be in prison because there'll be more of us.
Yeah. It's like, hey, what'd you do? I punched my boss. How come? I called my coworker the N-word. What about you? Oh, he hates women. Oh, sweet. Want to start a gang? Yeah. Well, here's... So...
That was a very dumb vein we fell.
Whatever. Anyways, so this fucking guy saying like, yeah, they're violating the law and they think they're courageous. But you know what? These two women, they were fucking courageous. Margaret Anderson and Jane Heap gave a voice to people when no one else would at the Little Review. Lesbians, foreigners, people with new ideas. And it's not like they were posting a bunch of erotica. It was mostly poetry. But people wouldn't give these people a chance just because of who they were. The slogan of the Little Review was, making no compromise with the public taste. But after the Ulysses trial, they no longer printed their motto. Not long after that, Margaret Anderson left their paper, and a Little Review would print its final issue in 1929. Yeah. It was around this time that while living in Paris in the 1920s, that another famous alcoholic would turn out to get along famously with James Joyce.
He was born in the wrong generation.
It was none other than Ernest fucking Hemingway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were good drinking pals. Now, while we can't say for sure how often this happened, we know on at least a few occasions that Joyce would run his fucking mouth at a bar, start a fight, then jump behind Ernest and say, "Deal with him, Hemingway, deal with him."
Dude,
he would just stick him on.
Dude, you gotta, come on, man. After like the fourth time of getting your ass beat, you gotta learn to just maybe chill a little bit.
He's bringing a human pit bull with him the entire way, though. He just wants to see Hemingway beat dudes up.
That's so fucking mean.
I know. Remember, this is the man who stayed with a friend for less than a week before the friend tried to shoot him in the head.
No, mean of my larger friends for never doing that for me. They just go, yeah, he's a shithead.
Yeah, beat him up. It'll be funny.
Like, yeah, he deserves that.
Remember, though, of course James Joyce is an asshole. He was with a friend for less than a week before the dude tried to cap him in the fucking head. Like, remember, he tried to put a bullet in his noggin. Like,
yeah, he's a huge piece of shit.
He's a bad guy.
His wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the last episode's all coming back to me now. Head injury regardless.
But anyways, back to Ulysses. Now, eventually, Ulysses would be printed in its entirety on Joyce's 40th birthday in 1922 by a woman named Sylvia Beach, who owned a bookstore in Paris called Shakespeare and Company. And would just print it in her fucking apartment. Apparently, Joyce and Beach met each other at a dinner party, and he was like, "The fucking government is arresting people for my work. I can't find anyone to publish my book." And she was just like, "I'll fucking do it." Because this lady really gave a shit about books. Out of the 1,000 copies of Ulysses she made, 100 were signed on Dutch handmade paper, 150 on fine watercolorist paper, 750 copies on standard handmade pages, and the rest on mixed newsprint. Now, this cost her quite a bit of money. And true to form, as soon as Joyce found out that he was... Because she cares. She was like, this is a good book. It's going to be nice. This is going to be a really fucking nice book, you know? Like, if you go out and you try to buy a Bible or an Ayn Rand... No, if you try to buy, like, an Ayn Rand novel or something, it's printed out the same thin material as a Bible. They're only caring about printing out as many copies as they can and handing them out. That's all that they care about. But, yeah, the Rand Foundation. But, because it's still a culty little thing.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I mean, I'm assuming the nicer ones are more expensive.
Oh, yeah, for her to even print. She's just running a little bookstore.
Do you think that's a little prohibitive to people who, like, can't fucking afford it, and then you're, like, limiting your audience there and not giving access to poor people?
Nah, she's in Paris. I don't know. It's fine.
I don't know, maybe it... Yeah.
But either way, no, she cares about the books, and so she made it on fine fucking paper. You know, like, I have only, like, a few fucking books in here where, like, you could tell that they cared about the quality that it was being printed on. They're like, we're going to do a good job with the binding, everything. It's, yeah, but it takes somebody to really give a shit to do that. Now, true to form, as soon as Joyce found out that he was going to get published by the Egoist Press in London in 1922 later that year for like a European release, he left Sylvia in the fucking hole. But he is going to get a little bit of a comeuppance here. Now, Harriet Shaw Weaver was the editor for the magazine The Egoist. It was because of her, at Ezra Pound's insistence, that James Joyce was able to serialize a portrait of the artist as a young man back in 1914. When he couldn't find anyone besides Sylvia Beach to publish Ulysses, she set up the Egoist Press as a publisher just to publish Ulysses at her own expense. Now, her magazine, The Egoist, did start to serialize Ulysses in England, just like the Little Review tried to do in America, and it seemed like the book would finally reach store shelves. And it would be a nice little deal for Harriet Weaver. The Egoist publishes the chapters one by one, then the Egoist Press would put the whole book out once it was finished being printed in the magazine. However, much like the Little Review, the Egoist was ordered to stop at the insistence of English authorities for pretty much the same reason. And because Joyce had already given his fuck you to Sylvia Beach, printing it at her own expense and everything, what she had printed were now the only copies of Ulysses that would ever exist. 7 years of James Joyce's life meant nothing, except the people who got their hands on some of these copies began to pirate the novel for distribution themselves.
Ah, there we go.
While Joyce was mulling over his loss of ever publishing Ulysses in 1923, he commissioned painter Patrick Toohey to paint a portrait of his father, John. Loving the work, he requested the painter's return the following year to get a painting of himself. No problem, thought Patrick Toohey, probably. Seems simple enough.
This guy's kind of a fucking asshole, and I don't really want to see him in person. Like,
yeah, the portrait of James Joyce would
can
take...
you just send me a photograph?
It would take 28 sessions.
I just work better.
28 sessions over several weeks, while Joyce constantly bitched over every detail.
Yeah.
They did not end up on the best of terms by the portrait's completion. Now, while Joyce was still living in Paris, his daughter, Lucia, I found out it was called.
Lucia.
So not
There's
quite...
like a T in it?
Yeah, basically. Because she was born in Italy, I think. And so that was her and her brother Giorgio. So they have more of a T pronunciation with it. Lucia. Look, I thought it was Lucia. Because I know an Eastern European with that spelling, so... Every video I looked at said Lucia. Anyway,
all right, cool.
While Joyce was still living in Paris, his daughter Lucia was flourishing as a dancer. She began her dancing career in 1925 at the age of 18, even becoming an extra as a dancing toy soldier in a genre noir film called The Little Match Girl. I mean, she was doing really fucking well for herself. Someone in the Paris Times even once said, quote, Lucia Joyce is her father's daughter. She has James Joyce's enthusiasm, energy, and a not yet determined amount of genius. When she reaches her full capacity for rhythmic dancing, James Joyce may yet be known as his daughter's father. Once, when she didn't win a contest, the crowd started loudly jeering at the judges. One person in that audience was the yet-to-be-famous Irish playwright and novelist Samuel Beckett, who would eventually get his start in the literary world by becoming James Joyce's secretary for a short period of time and publishing a book on why his boss wasn't fucking crazy. But we'll get to that in a little bit. He also dated Lucia herself for a short while before her mental health began to decline.
Chapter 1, because I'm fucking his daughter.
Chapter 2, I'm being paid handsomely. Chapter 3, why Samuel Beckett needs a raise.
Chapter 4, look, there are some perks to putting up with this. I'm going to explain them to you in detail. Like, get off my back, it's not that bad.
Well, according to Samuel Beckett, Lucia had some sexual longing for a father figure, which he felt was a little fucking weird.
Yeah.
That, on top of her rampant sex drive, she was a disaster in every relationship she had.
It's not weird to want to call you daddy. I didn't say it wasn't okay. I said it was fucking weird.
I thought it was weird that you shortened it to dad. That was the worst
Father!
Father!
Whoa.
Now, James and Nora got formally married on July 4th, 1931 on John Joyce, the father's 82nd birthday. He would unfortunately only see their marriage last a little while before passing away on December 29th of that very same year. So here's the thing. You can have a book banned, but still own the rights to publish the book when it's eventually allowed. Much like what they do in Hollywood today with intellectual properties being bought and sold every day, but with nothing actually being made. Well, it's 1932, 12 years after the decision was handed down by the court that Ulysses was obscene and shan't be printed. But Random House Publishing had just gotten the rights to the book and wanted to try their hand at having the obscenity ruling overturned. What?
I went through my entire life
thinking that the Odyssey was called Ulysses and spoke about it as such and jumped into conversations about it as such.
Oh, man.
And carried them through. I didn't.
Can you believe that people were so kind to have just been like, what a fucking idiot.
No, it's worse. I just thought they were dicks. I was like, wow, this guy's an asshole.
Yeah, you told me that at the unfortunately after we hit the stop button, you were like, huh, I didn't know Ulysses was written back then. I was like, wait, you thought it was more recent? You're like, no, it's called Ulysses. I thought it was written the same time as like the Odyssey. I just kind of like,
You were like, no, this is too good. Let him
You've been doing that for 20 odd years,
like, fuck. God damn it.
So the rights to the book in America is now in Random House's hands. Morris Ernst was the attorney for Random House, and his goal was to find a reason to bring this book to court. So he orders a copy of Ulysses from Paris and goes to the post office to let the customs officer there know the book is illegal, it is coming, and you need to seize it. However, weeks later, the book is delivered straight to Morris's office. Customs missed it. So he unwraps the book, takes it down. He needs it to go to court, but he can't just have the book. So he takes it down to the post office and presents it to the customs officer like, please arrest me.
Please do your job.
Yeah. But then Random House ran into another problem with getting the book to court. The DA in charge of the case read the offending book and thought it was a fucking masterpiece. He didn't want to bring Ulysses to trial.
The fucking DA was a fucking hipster.
He was like, I'm not bringing this to trial. This book's great. It took 7 months before he was basically convinced, like, yeah, it's obscene, I guess, and decided to proceed with the trial. In 1933, the second trial for Ulysses took place, and the prosecution would be working off 3 main points. The book contained sexual prose, it was blasphemous, and it, quote, brought to the surface coarse thoughts and desires usually repressed.
How the fuck could it possibly be blasphemous? I don't know. I
don't remember anything in there that says, "Hey, fuck you, God." I don't think
I grew
so.
up with black metal, so my bar is pretty high. So I don't.
Oh man, so I forgot about that whole scene where he fucking shreds at the bar. Just
forgot about the goat sacrifice with all the tits.
Yeah. You remember that one chapter about the sirens? Turns out it was actually just Leopold Bloom going out to the bar and peeing on priests. Now it's a brilliant connection he makes between there. It's actually for the golden calf as he pisses on his leg and it says, "Hey, there's gold now." You
ever pissed on anyone?
I can't remember, which is probably no.
That is not the right answer for that, bud.
Well, immediately I think no, but I know I've been drunk enough to maybe I have and have forgotten, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no cautiously.
Do you want me to proceed or do you want to move on?
Go ahead. I could sit back and drink this. Go ahead.
I peed on someone once. I thought it was pretty fun.
Was that the end?
No.
Why'd you do it?
It was not a sex thing. I've never peed.
That's the wrong answer immediately.
I would do it if I was with somebody and they were like, "Hey, I want you to pee on me." I'd be like, "Yeah, fine. All right."
I'll lay down some fucking plastic.
I'd be like, "Yeah, cool. Let's go to the tub." Like, yeah. I don't know. But like, no, I don't remember the exact scenario, but I was at a party and someone did say something that I interpreted as shitty, and we were outside, so I just pulled out my penis and started peeing on his leg. And then he started crying.
Do I know this person?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
And then he started crying, and then after I was done peeing and zipped up, he walked off, and then his friend came out and like shoved me and tried to start a fight with me and was really mad, and he was saying some dumb shit, I don't remember. And then like, and all I remember, he's like, "What the fuck would you do if someone whipped out their dick and it fucking peed on your leg?" And I was like, I would have moved out of the way. Actually. So I don't understand where this is going to go from here. I mean, I would like to go back inside and continue drinking, but
that guy had to have been having a really rough night if he started crying after you peed on him, honestly.
I think it was such a curveball because he thought I would like shove him or hit him or something that it kind of...
You do something so demeaning. You just call his dad like, "We're disappointed in you." Like, whoa, left field there. I don't know how the fuck to feel about that.
We'll probably edit that out.
Yeah, you go ahead and think that. Now, evidently, try as the prosecution might, the Honorable Judge Woolsey saw the same brilliance the DA did. He said Ulysses was brilliant in the way it conveyed stream of consciousness writing, and that since all these sexual parts take place in a character's mind, realistically, it would be weird not to think certain things while, like, for instance, you're checking out a woman's legs. Within minutes of Judge Woolsey handing down the verdict that Ulysses shall no longer be deemed obscene, Random House got the call from the courthouse and started immediately printing copies. They had the printing plates all lined up just ready to go. Judge Woolsey even sent a message out to James Joyce personally congratulating him. Soon, within a few years, all the other countries that banned the book began to follow suit. Actually, the book that I own, the copy of Ulysses that I have, the foreword is done by Judge Woolsey. Like, he was so ecstatic about it. He was like, fuck yeah, I'll write the introduction. Like, he was really about it. He was like, this book's great.
Cool.
Now, of course, the U.S. attorney prosecuting the case wasn't happy with the decision and began an immediate appeal that took Ulysses to court yet again the following year in 1934. This time, 3 judges presided over the case once more, and in a 2-1 decision, the book was once again declared not obscene. Basically, the 2 judges, they were cousins. They were like, we have worse shit
They
being...
were cousins?
Yeah, they were cousins, and they were like, we have worse shit being printed today, dude. The books just aren't famous enough to reach a courthouse.
Y'all know about actual porn, right?
Yeah, like there is smut being made. They're just like, look, we're not going to worry about high literature here. Meanwhile, the one judge that voted to ban the book, Judge Manton, said the book could corrupt the minds of children and, quote, those less sophisticated.
I don't think anybody sophisticated is gonna get much more than just...
I'm pretty sure he meant women, though.
Ooh, yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking guy. Speaking of corruption, Judge Manton would later spend 17 months in prison for receiving bribes. He also gained infamy 22 years before the Ulysses trial for being the defense attorney for a cop that murdered a man to win favor with a gang in 1912.
A classic.
Where's that man on stage? President Manton.
What?
We need that man on in Washington now. He's willing to get shit done, all right? He's going to drain the dredges, the gutters, if you will.
Jordan, you're going for a point on this that I don't have the energy to join you on.
I'm sorry.
I want to tell you that right now. I'm fucking tired.
Me and the rest of the listeners are guafawing, if you will. So you can just look. All right. Now, anyway, the court cases, it was a good joke. The court cases for Ulysses.
I'm just burnt. All right. I worked my ass off this week. I'm fucking tired.
The court cases for Ulysses itself really changed the obscenity laws in the U.S. itself. From now on, the court would have to see the work as a whole instead of just random excerpts. The number of people offended would have to be like a sizable group rather than just one easily pissed off guy. And you had to take into account the societal standards of where the work comes from. Basically, the Irish are dirty people. Of course their writings will be too.
Duh.
Yeah. No, that was for real, like, their point. They're like, he's Irish.
I have no issue with this.
Of course they're jerking off in the streets. They're dogs. Now,
everyone knows an Irishman can't resist a fireworks display and a hob-legged woman.
The Irishman's got fleas. Now, I could
just scritching and beating.
You ever rub your tummy and pat your head? I could quite literally go into the initial reviews of Ulysses all fucking day. People had anticipated the release of this problematic book for over a goddamn decade. Everyone had heard about it. And if you were lucky enough, some people even had the coveted pirated copies of the book. I mean, when it was released, it was fucking huge.
The pirate.
Because remember, some people that bought the initial copies from Shakespeare and Company in Paris, they started pirating them themselves, reprinting them, doing whatever, handwriting. They started sending them out. So they got diluted over many different reprintings, you know what I mean? But still, it's not like you had a torrent to download the book. You had to know somebody who had this book in order to, like, hey man, you want to read the most fucked up shit ever because they haven't rediscovered 120 Days of Sodom yet? This is a book called Ulysses. Like, you know, and then people would read it and they'd be like, Huh, it wasn't that bad.
You want to read some weird shit that's good?
To summarize the reviews best, I often quote the feelings of one reviewer who called it something like the most beautiful piece of trash I have ever read. And the reviews were very split.
I wish someone would say something like that about me.
You're recycling. I could reuse you. You've clearly been tossed before, but I'm going to toss you again.
No. You misunderstand our relationship. I use you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I am providing shelter and food and beer.
Yes.
And the reviews were very split on whether you were leaning toward the brilliant side or the trash side. T.S. Eliot thought it was, quote, the most important expression which the present age has found, while Virginia Woolf called Ulysses, quote, a memorable catastrophe. Now, regardless of any reviews, good or bad, that anyone may have given it, you cannot deny the major influence Ulysses had in all forms of media. Just to name the greatest ones...
My life is a memorable catastrophe.
Name of my memoirs. Just to name the greatest
No, my memoirs are going
inspirations.
to be Beneath the Lumps. Settled on it.
I'll have a sequel book of my own, just Beneath the Lump.
It's just gonna be a memorable catastrophe, and everybody's gonna be like, there's no structure to any of this. It's like he just talked into Google text.
Oh my god, this man's the next James Joyce. No, he's illiterate. Charlie Day fucking writing the goddamn... Anyway, so out of all the influences, just to name the greatest ones, Jefferson Airplane had a song about the book called Rejoice, spelled Rejoyce, huh? The Simpsons have made fuck knows how many references to it, and in 1982, RTE Radio in Ireland aired a full broadcast of the book, uninterrupted, which took 29 hours and 45 minutes to finish. And I have to throw this out there because real recognizes real. Irish author Frank Delaney started a weekly podcast in 2010 called Rejoice, spelled just like the Jefferson Airplane song, that went over every page of Ulysses individually, talking about every fucking meaning up until his death 7 years later in 2017. He only made it about halfway through the book.
This shit is a meme.
You know what? It kind of is.
This shit is a meme before memes. Straight up.
It
meme
really is.
Just for the writing community.
That's a good way to think of it.
People really into this shit.
Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Bloomsday is celebrated in Ireland every June 16th in Dublin. The date the book is placed, and if you'll remember, is actually the date of James and Nora's first date, essentially having a whole town celebrate the day Nora gave Joyce a handjob. The festival...
Wait.
Remember? After their first date. Yeah.
Well, I got mad because he said hand job. I'm still mad. But
he made the book take place on that day.
Is this actually like a little celebration?
Oh yeah.
Or is it a whole?
Oh, buddy. So.
Oh, please tell me we're going over this. Please, I'm so excited.
Yeah. The festival is named after main character Leopold Bloom. Mm-hmm. Bloom Day.
See.
Started in 1954 by close friends of Joyce, who started...
Shit, are you telling me there's a... Okay, wait.
No, you don't get a hand job. It doesn't sound that bad if
there's a whole hand job festival.
Well, nobody really talks about it. The part of the festival is not getting handy.
It sounds like a relatively safe way to get a lot of different people to touch my penis.
Yeah. Now, remember, though, all the places James Joyce liked to mention are real places. So... Started in 1954 by close friends of Joyce, who started at the Martello Tower at Sandy Cove, where the story begins, which is now a James Joyce museum. They attempted to make the same journey as the characters, since all the locations in the book are real, only to make it halfway through the route to Bailey Pub before calling it quits for being too inebriated. Today, people try to make the same route as the characters in the book, doing their best to not piss themselves and throw up in a gutter. And again, all the places in Ulysses are real. In 1995, a man stole the fucking door knocker to the Bloom household, only to return it in 2013. We need to go. It's basically bar hopping the entire day. That's all that it is.
A week ago, I didn't want a hand job.
I mean, we're going to end up giving each other handies. People are like, oh, you celebrating Bloomsday? And we're like, what?
It's me and you in the Bloomsday parade just crossing arms.
Well, everyone's wearing a pork pie hat. I thought we were all just jerking each other
off.
off.
Misinterpreted this.
But it's not just a big day in Ireland. It's celebrated all over the world. Powell's here in Portland will do an all-day reading of Ulysses. It's fucking huge in Philly, of course, because of all the fucking Irish bars. Latvia, France, Italy, the fucking Czech Republic, everywhere. Every country does this. Now, while Ulysses has always been celebrated, one thing that stands out to people are the grammatical errors that Joyce made and refused to fix. So, here's the fucking thing. The original manuscript of Ulysses has something like 2,500 grammatical errors, but it's difficult to say which ones were intentional. According to Joyce, all of them were. They're all intentional.
Well, yeah,
because it's stream of consciousness, right?
No, that's the best thing though. Is like when you say they're all intentional, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God damn it.
And because no, dude, check this out. Because the book was actively in a court battle for 12 years, it meant that during that time, the best way to get yourself a copy was to get a pirated copy. I mean, people tried to get legitimate copies through the mail from the Egoist Press. Problem was, the U.S. Postal Service was looking for any mail coming from them. It's estimated that
did they like inspect mail back in the day?
They saw where it was from. Yeah, they actually inspected it back in the day.
So they like rip open envelopes, look at it, and then put it in a different
they
envelope?
Could.
Like,
yeah,
could?
Well, they could. Yeah.
Shit.
They took the shit very seriously. And there weren't even nail bombs, you know?
I thought they only did that for like drugs.
Well, they do now. They're just, hey, I was going to smoke that. They estimate that the USPS burned up to 500 copies of Ulysses. So these pirated copies of the book, like from Two Worlds Publishing in New York, behind the scenes, of course, noticed these errors and incorrectly assumed they had an early draft of the novel tried, quote-unquote, fixing the grammatical errors. Right. When the New York offices were raided by police on October 4th, 1929, and anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 copies of Ulysses were burned, the honor of pirating the book went elsewhere. Unfortunately, when the trial was over and Random House Publishing won the honor of printing the first authorized U.S. version of Ulysses, they went off one of the pirated copies they acquired from Two Worlds Publishing. Between all the different publishers, the quote-unquote real version of Ulysses did not see the light of day until 1960, 34 years after its initial release.
Holy fuck, I bet it read even worse.
Oh, and can you imagine how fucking excited book nerds were about it? They're like, oh my god, he calls it a dag instead of a dog. Oh my fucking god. Like, they're all about it. Like, he spelled pussy with one S. Oh my god, this is the best. Like, however, in 1984...
In my stream of consciousness, we shorten the pussy.
It's the puzz. However, in 1984... and this is my favorite bit, there was a new translation by a man named Hans Walter Gabler. Supposedly, he had some of the earliest notes by James Joyce himself.
Where the fuck is he from? That's a wild name.
Germany.
Alright.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly. Caleb, go to sleep.
Supposedly, he had the earliest notes by James Joyce himself on Ulysses. So he took what people regarded as the...
like the big finger painting?
Yeah, like he had like some of the earliest drafts. So he took what people regarded as the correct edition of Ulysses and put even more grammatical errors in there while correcting some of the others that weren't meant to be.
So they're uncorrecting the correct.
Exactly. Now, nobody actually saw these notes from James Joyce except old Hans, but everyone took this guy's word for it. Publishers around the world began printing the Gabler translation. But when someone pointed out that after making over 2,000 changes to the book, that this guy could essentially make royalties on every copy of the book sold by basically becoming a co-author of this edition of Ulysses, the publishers started quietly backing away. So he made enough changes to it that now it's not like over 2,000 punctuations. Now that word is now his word. And he's made over like 2,000 changes that change sentences, they change paragraphs, and now...
So they're going to have to pay him too, huh?
Yeah. Now he gets royalties.
Is James Joyce still alive at this point?
No. So he's essentially getting...
I fucking forget that you already told me?
No. We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay,
I'm just
cool.
going over
I was about
Ulysses.
to be like, holy shit, how many beers have I drank?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't remember the dog fucking scandal? No, so he like...
You don't remember when he was fucked to death by dogs? No, I don't. Oh, God.
So basically, before, it was only like royalties going to the Joyce estate and to whoever was publishing it. But now this guy is getting a fat fucking cut as if he were the second author to Ulysses. He's making so much fucking money. So everyone started backing away from this. Basically, everyone believed Hans's hype that this would be like the first definitive edition of Ulysses. But when someone actually just asked the Joyce estate if they accepted the changes and they said no, all the publishers just kind of quietly put out their old editions and recalled the Hans Gabler translations. So if anybody out there has one, probably doesn't read too different, but that is like the most incorrect version that you can get. But anyway, back during the 30s, after the release of Ulysses, Lucia Joyce's mental health would decline more than ever. Joyce would take his daughter with him to Switzerland to talk with psychiatrists while he underwent more than 10 different eye surgeries. Eventually, Lucia became the patient of none other than Carl Jung, who was quick to diagnose her with schizophrenia.
Oh, no.
Funnily enough, after having read Ulysses, Carl Jung diagnosed James with the same thing. Jung said that they were two people headed to the bottom of the river, except James was diving and Lucia was sinking. So James knew how to, be crazy. He was great at it. Lucia was out of control, though. And against James's wishes, Nora had Lucia admitted to a clinic in 1936 due to her ever-growing violent outbursts. Lucia,
Good?
huh?
Good?
I mean, better than her. I don't know.
I mean, good
It's still
reaction to the thing.
It
not
is.
Good, not good
it's
circumstance.
not. It's not a good time period.
Is it a good time period for dealing with that?
No.
Is it?
I may have thought to maybe let her run free anyway.
Are we in the time period where it really sucks in there, but goddamn, the architecture is beautiful.
You see those old black and white photos of the haunted asylums. It's it's got a nice architecture.
Wow,
Really let a lot of light
very
in.
interesting
Yeah.
design in here.
Lucia's fits of rage were at their worst whenever Nora, her mother, was present. Due to this, after Lucia was locked away,
they kept her mom away.
well,
right?
there's no record of Nora having ever seen her daughter again after she got admitted. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but the Joyces do have a son, Giorgio. Yeah, they don't really mention him because he was he's just normal out of all of them.
He just went and started, he just got a union job. And
Yeah,
just,
poor kid's a fucking accountant and they're just oh, Giorgio, you won't even masturbate in public.
He's just carpentry's fine.
No, I have no son.
No, it's really cool. I make $40 an hour and
I have no son.
I get great benefits.
No boy.
It's okay. I mean, I can build us a house on property if we,
I hear the whispers of my stillborn son.
Wait, what the fuck did Giorgio actually do? What did he end up doing?
He ended up being fucking normal.
Yeah, no, is he not documented at all?
His son.
This is pause worthy.
His son more than anything. Giorgio, I swear to God, just hands down, straight as an arrow, fucking normal guy. His son, we will talk about his son. This is where that podcast is going to end.
Normal guy is a very broad fucking...
I don't have his job because it was normal.
What do you mean normal?
Cubicle work. Call it cubicle work.
That ranges everywhere from my job to cubicle work.
I'm almost certain he just lived off of his father's estate, but he didn't do anything
that's
crazy.
Not being normal. That's being a fucking bitch. And I don't think he does that if he said he was normal.
Okay, sure, whatever. Now, anyway, since Nora couldn't go to visit Lucia, Giorgio had to often accompany his father during visitations. You had to go in groups because, for instance, one time they go to see her and she starts saying, "Che bello, che bello," and then she tries to strangle both of them. Oh. She was in a straitjacket most of her life. It was the year after the completion of Ulysses that James Joyce said he would...
I wonder why.
It was the year after the
fuck, that's tragic, though. God
damn. Dude, right? And this is the 30s. I mean, you're going to jump into the 40s and it's better? No, not really.
You got about... I don't even know how many years.
I will say
I haven't done my homework longer than her lifetime.
Well, jumping ahead a little bit, she does die sometime in the 80s, and I want to say there was not a huge mental institution reform until at least the 90s. Look, man, it's all a tragedy. Don't worry about it. Fuck. It was the year after...
I'm glad I don't know more.
Yeah, probably for the best, actually. It was the year after the completion of Ulysses that James Joyce said he would publish a book even bigger and more confusing than the last. And Harriet Weaver,
we know,
editor of The Egoist and one of the few people...
This time I'm finger painting and poop!
One of the few people to ever actually read the book at this point, she was all aboard. Only problem, Joyce would need to work on the novel full-time, as a job, pay me daily. By the novel's completion was an extremely frayed relationship between Harriet and James. In preparation for a book that would be truly truly stream of consciousness writing, Joyce wrote down every thought, every day, for 17 years. As soon as something would feel halfway like a plot, he would flesh it out and send the story to literary magazines for validation. But of course, all the stories were balls to the wall insane, and people didn't really receive the stories that well. Still, Joyce had a following from fellow writers and critics that knew the end result would be genius. So this small collective, including Joyce's then secretary Samuel Beckett, put together a collection...
Dude, I don't know about that.
We'll get to it. It's a short paragraph that I've written on this book.
Dude, that actually
For a
seems
reason.
like we're profiting off of this guy being fucking crazy.
A bit, right? Now, so a small collective of people, including his daughter's, I think, ex-boyfriend at this point, and his secretary, Samuel Beckett, they put together a collection of essays basically calling Joyce a prodigy so that it would warm up the critics by the time his new book arrived. Like, look, it seems crazy now, don't worry about it, wait till it's all published. It was called Our Examination Round His Factification for Incamination of Work in Progress.
And then everyone was like, yep, that's exactly what I thought.
Right.
Like,
it also included two essays.
No, hang on. Let me tell you the title. No, man.
It's called Horse Shit. No, it's important. Okay, it's going to come into play later. No, but this also...
Horse shit, but in Latin.
It also included two essays by people who hated Joyce's work. Just for funsies. Just to make it well-rounded. Finally, after 17 long years of work, James Joyce finished what would become his final novel, Finnegan's Wake. Full disclosure, I will not be going into Finnegan's Wake.
Holy shit. Wait. Did we have like a weird lapse in... Because that sounds solid. Is someone editing that?
As I will explain in a bit, the main plot of the book is kind of up for interpretation. This is 700 pages of absolute madness.
Oh.
When Joyce said he wanted to create something truly stream of consciousness, he fucking meant it. The book is entirely dream speak. I tried reading it and gave up after like 3 pages.
Wait, why Finnegan's Wake?
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, my bad. Proceed.
But as of this year, it still isn't fully solved. So fuck it.
It's not fucking gonna be.
But here's the thing though, nobody thought that it was going to be. And then after like 20 years, somebody did a good bit of research where they were like, oh, holy shit, we know the story outline? Like, I will also not be going into the themes of Finnegan's Wake because with every interpretation comes a new theme. Fuck that. And that's the thing, when the book came out, the reviews were bad. As one critic put it, quote, in a work where every sentence opens a variety of possible interpretations, any synopsis of a character is bound to be incomplete. And that's just it. Every person that reads Finnegan's Wake has a different idea of what it's about. But according to Joyce himself, quote, I can justify every line in my book, but I only somewhat believe him. Some of it is clearly great. For instance, here's the opening passage to Finnegan's Wake. Quote, River run, past even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back Houth Castle and environs. But, and that's, it means nothing. But if you start with the closing line of the book, then read the beginning again, it says, away alone, alas, aloved along the river run, past even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back Houth Castle and environs.
Do you think it's better or worse that a schizophrenic person has a vast vernacular?
Makes it more interesting, I guess.
That's fucked.
Otherwise, they're just like, Joyce, what do you think about the deeper meanings? You know?
Shit.
So it's like the whole book just goes in a loop. But over the years, there have been a discovery of puzzles within the pages that can be solved, which is why we've been able to know at least a little bit of the plot today. This includes the use of 100-letter words that describe fucking lightning. I wish I could read it for you. I wasn't going to type it up, though.
Oh, no, that
it's
sounds
just
kind of cool.
Right, but it's 100 letters that go... You know? Like, it's crazy. And
Careful
he does
now,
it like
you're
4
laughing
different
at a
times.
schizophrenic guy.
Fuck
Hang
him.
on.
He's an asshole.
What?
He's an asshole.
Because he's schizophrenic.
That's not why.
We know that now. It's not like he just never fucking had it. His daughter got it real young.
Look, that was Carl Jung's assumptions about him after reading Ulysses. He never really met
assuming
James
that
Joyce,
might have been that one
you know?
guy's fucking assumption after he threatened to shoot him.
Yeah, Carl Jung's is not exactly, not one of the leading minds. Not. Carl Jung's a pretty smart dude, so I might have to go with him there. That's what I'm saying. So, overall, it's a novel that buried its brilliance in a supposed jumble of meaningless prose, and it took decades for people to even start to understand it.
Was he in a hospital at this point?
No.
No,
he's doing fine.
Got out?
But he got out. He's fine.
What happened to his daughter?
She's in a hospital. She's in the loony bin. He's out and about. He's having a great time. He's just being drunk with Hemingway.
Still angry drunk?
Yeah, he's still an awful drunk.
I wonder how many times Hemingway kicked his ass.
That's something I'm sure happened at least once. It had to.
At least once?
At least. Well, I mean, I hadn't even thought of the possibility, but now I'm just like, oh, for sure. That was a thing that happened.
Oh,
He kicked his ass in the streets of Paris for sure. Ran his
fucking
fucking
mouth.
or two. Jordan, the next Hemingway shoved his crazy friend into a puddle, just like Hemingway to Joyce.
The fantastic thing about the puddle is it also splashes your face with water and wakes you up a little bit. So you're like, fuck, I'm too drunk to respond, and then the water hits you, and you're like, all right, take me home, sorry.
Now, however, the whole thing with Joyce saying, I can justify every line in my book, could also be complete bullshit. When Black Sun Press began printing copies of Finnegan's Wake, they noticed that the final page only had 2 lines of text on it. They didn't set the printing plates up right, and now it looks fucking weird. Like they now have to rearrange the printing plates for over 600 pages, so it didn't look bad. It was just their fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, yes. It's weird when you're looking at the final book and there's just one line up at the top, and they're like, fuck, it looks weird. We need to rearrange the whole thing. But instead...
Yeah, why did you over-explain that?
I always do. But one of the guys at the printing press suggested, instead of going through all that work, how about they just ask Joyce to write 8 more lines? Like, that way the final page would at least be like 1/3 full and wouldn't look as sloppy. The guy he was talking to said no literary master would ever alter his text like that, just to fix a printing error.
What?
Like, no, you can't ask James fucking Joyce to write 8 more lines just so that our printing mistake doesn't look fucking stupid. But when the guy just asked Joyce directly, he was like, sure, here you go. And just sent over 8 more lines like he'd asked. You want me to describe the sound of farts? But again, holy shit, did the people not like Finnegan's Wake? As you can imagine, I'm sure. Here are some of my favorite insults towards Finnegan's Wake. James Joyce's brother Stanislaus called it an incomprehensible nightbook. Joyce's friend and inspiration for the character Buck Mulligan from Ulysses thought it was an ingenious joke that Joyce was pulling on the literary community, basically making fun of the whole classic literature crowd. He really thought James Joyce was just like, you absolute bullshitter. This is horrible. You're a fucking troll, dude. This is great. Ezra Pound, our poetic fascist without whom none of this would be possible, said, quote, nothing so far as I can make out, nothing short of divine vision or a new cure for the clap can possibly be worth all of the circumambulate peripherization.
There's already a cure, motherfucker.
Not back then.
Rapid.
I guess so. H.G. Wells personally wrote a letter to Joyce saying that he had turned his back on the common man and how dare he make him waste what precious days he had left on this earth reading such bullshit.
Whoa. Fucking God.
Harriet Weaver, the woman who financially supported Joyce over the last 17 years, was understandably upset. By the time of the novel's completion 17 years later, Harriet had paid James Joyce nearly $1 million in today's money. D.H. Lawrence called James Joyce a clumsy olla putrida, which is a Spanish stew for some reason. I don't know why he called him that.
Stew?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know why he said that. You fucking meat the potato. And Vladimir Nabokov.
You got back.
The Vladimir Nabokov called the book, quote, a persistent snore in the next room.
Wait, that's a slur for them? I'm sorry, I'm on that. They just have food. There's a...
You fucking roll up with three.
So wait, putting up your hand like that and being like, you fucking a spicy meatball, you fucking... like, it's not off fucking target.
This is a Spanish stew. This is a Spaniard thing, but he was a man of the world.
Spanish, Italian, who gives a shit?
Who cares? I'm American. They're all in England. Whatever.
I'm Puerto Rican, it's fine. I'm probably at least a little bit.
Hey,
bad.
we practically own you, okay? But it wasn't until...
do?
Yeah. I want states' rights. Okay. Sure. Have some paper towels, motherfucker.
Okay.
But it wasn't until people gave the book a little time to percolate that they noticed those little literary puzzles here and there. 15 years after the book's release, world-famous mythologist Joseph Campbell wrote the first companion piece to it called A Skeleton Key to Finnegan's Wake. After that, people started to understand it a bit more. And I didn't go into Joseph Campbell at all here, but he is world famous. He was able to translate multitudes of mythology and shit like that and draw connections.
Oh my god.
What?
This is literary Dark Souls.
Yes. Exactly.
Holy shit.
And that's a problem, though. It's 700 pages and
because you read through it and you're like, wow, this sucks dick. And then you look to the left and there's a whole community of people deciphering it. And you're like, oh shit, now I'm getting into it.
You just haven't found that one secret room with the 3 statues and the one is headless yet.
You didn't know you could glitch out the game and jump into this area? Like...
And then in 1962, someone else published their theory on it. And then someone else. And then another one. And then as the decades rolled on, people started to realize, hey, maybe the book isn't such a hunk of shit like we thought it was. Since then, the book has inspired many people in all forms of art. Unfortunately, Joyce would never see its success. On June 22nd, 1940, the Nazis began their occupation of France.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, remember when you thought that this was like an ancient English book?
Dude, yeah.
Now we're talking about Nazis?
Yeah.
Later that year,
Wait, there were Nazis in Ulysses?
What do you think killed Homer? Later that year, Joyce and Nora fled Paris and made their way back to their former home of Trieste, which is in Italy. Also not a great place.
Bad move.
Yeah. Also not a great place to be during World War II. To his credit, though, Joyce supposedly used his country-hopping contacts to help 16 Jews escape persecution. So, I mean, however, I can find, like, no information on this, but, I mean, that was kind of the point of helping out Jews in the first place, is that you don't find out information about that. So, I mean, we don't know for sure, but if that is true, this would be perhaps the one good deed before his death. Like, I can't think of any better thing that he's done.
You can have a moral compass and still be a rambling asshole.
Yeah, for sure.
Please.
But now, shortly after their escape, on January 11th, 1941, James Joyce would undergo a relatively simple ulcer surgery in Zurich. However, the next day, he fell into a short coma that lasted until the next day. On January 13th at 2 a.m., he awoke and asked the attending nurse to quickly call his wife and son before again knocking out. Supposedly, his last words were, "Does nobody understand?" 15 minutes later, he was dead, while Nora and Giorgio were on their way to the hospital. He was a month shy of his 59th birthday. Kind of fitting for that to be his last words. Like, you get it? It's Dark Souls, you know?
No, dude, the thing that's blowing my fucking mind is that he's 50. That was a lot for 59.
Right?
There's a lot of shit back in
Guess how many Jaeger bottles of you know, that they had. It was all in his liver like a goddamn camel.
That dude just fucking woke up hard every morning and wrote. Holy shit.
James Joyce was buried in Zurich.
That was a lot of drama.
Oh, yeah. Right?
Holy shit.
Well, it's easy when you're crazy, I guess. He was buried in Zurich at the Flunturn Cemetery. When a Catholic priest asked Nora if she'd like it to be a religious service, she said, I couldn't do that to him. Like the thought was there. She thought it would be funny. She's like, no, I guess not.
I would have done it.
From there, Nora remained in Zurich until her death on April 10th, 1951 at the age of 67. 10 years later. She was buried by her husband's side. After her mother's death, Lucia was transferred to St. Andrew's Hospital in England against her late father's wishes, as James once remarked that he would never have his daughter incarcerated amongst the English.
No. The racism
That's
from
fair.
white
That's
people
fair.
to white people.
You know what?
is
He
fine.
grew up with the fucking English people, like, just knocking down his people day after day. That's warranted.
It's fucking fine. It's like
it's
somebody.
fine. It's the English.
It's like somebody from one state here being like, "Don't you ever go to prison in Michigan." Like, it's
Yeah, it's warranted. That's warranted. That's a good idea. It's like one of my uncles being like, Jordan, let me tell you, even though Cabo is great, please never go to prison in any prison in Mexico. Don't ever be held in their jail cell in even Cabo. It was like, you know what?
I mean, it's not prison though.
It was just a holding cell for like 3 days naked, but it was still just like, you know what?
Whoa, what's going on now?
That was early, college days dilemma, hanging out in Mexico.
For you?
No. One of my uncles. Don't worry about it. He didn't have to spend 3 days there, but his father was very pissed. My grandfather was very mad.
I see.
He was like, "Oh, he's staying naked in a jail cell for 3 days in Mexico."
I mean, yeah, there's no way it could be worse than like, American jail.
They probably give you clothes. Anyway, we're almost done here.
Sorry.
Over the years, many people from the Joyce's life helped take care of Lucia. Among them, Samuel Beckett, Sylvia Beach, and Harriet Weaver, who, by the way, also footed the bill for James's fucking funeral after giving him like $1 million. On December 12th, 1982, Lucia passed away at the age of 75 after suffering a stroke earlier that year. On Bloomsday, it's tradition to read poems at her gravesite in Northampton. In 1975, a collection of letters between James and Nora were published. It's here that the whole world learned of James's enormous fart fetish. You were close.
Dude.
You talked about the ass, you talked about the legs. I'm like, oh, you're getting there.
Oh, man.
Quote, and I'm going to read this whole thing. No interruptions. Leave your thoughts for the end of the session, please.
Holy shit, though. It waited until the end of his life to when he was finally like, yeah, I like farts.
Well, no. He was sending these letters throughout his life. We didn't find out until, 35 years after he was dead. Thankfully, I hope that's when people find out my kinks. Like,
I don't care.
No, go ahead. Top 3. What are they? No, I'm kidding. All right, so, quote, I'm going to wait for you to not be drinking that. Fat, dirty farts came sputtering out of your backside. You had an ass full of farts that night, darling, and I fucked them out of you. Big fat fellows. Long, windy ones. Quick little merry cracks, and a lot of tiny little naughty farties, ending in a long gush from your hole. It is wonderful to fuck a farting woman with every fuck drives one out of her. I think I would know Nora's fart anywhere. I think I could pick hers out of a room full of farting women.
What are you feeding this woman and how are you fucking her?
It is a rather girlish noise, not like the wet, windy fart which I imagine fat wives have.
Dude, girl farts are disgusting.
It is. It is sudden and dry.
Okay, we gotta be careful not to make this thing close out because we're so loud. All right, hang on.
I'm
gonna back off. You should back off too.
It is sudden and dry and dirty, like what a bold girl would let off in fun in a school dormitory at night. I hope Nora will let off no end of her farts in my face so that I may know their smell also.
Why did you tell me to stop drinking? You thought I
didn't want you to
spit
spew
it
it.
out?
Yeah.
Like, no,
Maybe not
man.
Change the taste of your beer.
Just like, damn, this is an abrupt turn that I didn't want.
Beer tastes like dirt and eggs.
Well, at least in fucking 100 Days of Sodom, I was prepared for weird shit, and now you fucking come with this curveball of asses flapping.
I want to say at
but
one
not
point,
in a fun way.
To be honest,
fun way for some people.
Like besides Ulysses, this is pretty much holding the number one spot for what he's known for at this point. To be honest, like when people say James Joyce, it's like 2 things come to mind: is Ulysses and fart fetishes. And I want to say at one point his estate even gifted his bloody shorts from whippings to a college or something, but I'm having trouble finding that.
Oh my god! By the way, listeners, if any of you guys like that shit, it's
fine. It's just funny.
It's fucking fine. It's fucking fine. But goddamn, is it fucking funny?
It is hilarious.
Oh my god, that was a very intense paragraph.
I should hang on one second.
Don't.
No, let me try one last time.
God damn it, dude, no.
Fat, dirty farts came
I thought you were going to try to
spluttering.
fart.
No, that's not going to work. Fat,
I'll
dirty
just shit my
farts came
pants.
spluttering out of your backside. You had an ass full of farts that night, darling, and I fucked them right out of you, big fat bellows, long windy ones. Quick little merry cracks and a lot of tiny little naughty farties.
You know what, dude?
A long gush from your hole.
I still hold that Brazilian fart porn is the funniest shit ever.
Oh yeah, I watch it ironically too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Giorgio...
No. You see, one woman bends over and spreads her ass cheeks, and the other woman comes in, and then she puts her nose in front of that woman's asshole, and you're like, what's happening? I haven't seen this before. And then that woman farts in the other woman's face, and you're like, surely this is a blooper reel. But no. now the woman on the receiving end of the fart is wafting the fart into her face, and then she's getting paid to act like the fart's making her have an orgasm.
I still maintain, man, that shit will never do it for me. But I will say, Chuck Berry's sex tape when he farts at that prostitute's face is pretty funny.
I've said some nasty shit on this podcast, and there was nothing before today that I hope my parents and grandparents didn't listen to anymore.
Honestly, I'm just glad I don't have to find out 35 years after your death what turned you on. Now, Giorgio Joyce passed away in 1976. Oh, fuck. That means that he was around for those letters to come out. He died a year after that.
Is he going to give a shit at that point? Like,
I hope he doesn't give a shit. I hope he gives a quick little winding crack,
farts,
merry
dude.
crack.
Holy shit. Oh, my God.
What?
Yo, dude, is the fireworks thing like a hidden metaphor for fucking for the ass lighting up? Is that kind of like a combo? Dude!
I don't think so, but I'm so glad if it is that James Joyce is looking on us right now like, you did it, boy. The last great message has been found.
Yeah, no, but I don't...
I could go back and read it if you want, but I don't think so.
Dude, I don't think that's that fucking...
He was already doing a double entendre with masturbation. I don't think farting had anything to do with it.
He's fucking spanking it to a fucking hop-legged chick clapping her ass cheeks back and forth from insane farts.
She wasn't twerking at the beach.
I know, she wasn't twerking. It's not twerking. When a woman twerks, she's not forcing her ass back and forth with her fucking farts.
God damn it. Giorgio Joyce passed away in 1976.
No, we're exploring this. That's what that is. That's what the fireworks thing is.
And while Giorgio himself was not that notable as far as history is concerned, his son, Stephen...
God damn it, I'm right. Asses and fireworks. That's a clear metaphor for that.
That's all that Katy Perry's song was ever about.
Pops, shooting things. Come on.
Nothing else shoots besides a wiener?
No. Farts do.
Anyway, his son, Stephen Joyce, became the executor of the Joyce estate. In 1988, he destroyed a collection of letters from his Aunt Lucia. In 1989, he sued an author for mentioning his Aunt Lucia in a footnote. You couldn't show James Joyce's work online. You could not show personal letters from James Joyce that he sent you himself. You could not read James Joyce during the Bloomsday Festival. Most recently, in 2013, Ireland issued a 10-euro coin in honor of Joyce that misquoted Ulysses. They put an extra...
Can you exchange it for a handjob?
10 euros? Yeah, probably in the poor parts of town,
coin.
yeah. They put an extra that in the quote instead of like that holy thing. It was like that holy thing, it didn't matter. But holy shit, would Stephen Joyce not shut the fuck up about it? He passed away in January of 2020 at the age of 87. This episode would probably not have happened would he still be alive today. I'm sure if his father Giorgio had passed away just before those collection of fart letters got published, he probably would have put a stop to that too.
Happened.
Isn't that sad? My sources today: Dubliners,
Sacrifice.
Dubliners by James Joyce, Dover Thrift Editions, 1991. A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, Penguin Books, 2003. Ulysses by James Joyce, Modern Library Inc., New Edition, corrected and reset, 1961, because that was when they first got like the correct misspellings in there. Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, Wordsmith Editions, Limited, 2012, and James Joyce had some pretty specific sexual desires from Medium.com. Now, I will say, when it comes
Medium.com? That's a new one.
Medium, I don't know, it's some 10 celebrities you didn't know have a third nipple. You know, that kind of thing. But, you
You're
know.
kidding, right?
No.
Did you?
But no, his stuff is
that makes
everywhere.
Me think there was some
no,
spam
it's
ad website.
Like dude, that? No, it's everywhere. I just went for the one that happened to be one of the first things up on the page. Trust me.
Maybe find a more credible sounding source from that.
I probably could have, but I didn't. So,
well, now we may have just done a whole bit about him loving farts.
I guarantee you that man was crazy about farts. I guarantee you. It's not from one website. It's on all of them. Like I said, James Joyce is known for two things, Ulysses and farts. Just loving the fucking pooper breath. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to when people say like, "Oh, is audiobook really reading?" You know, are you really reading if you're listening to an audiobook?
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. The first time I tried reading Ulysses, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." I went out there and found some free version of an audiobook where they actually had like sound quality and like different people reading different parts so that I could actually know what the fuck was going on. And the second time I read Ulysses, I was like, this is brilliant. But I do maintain Ulysses is brilliant only if you know what the fuck is going on. Otherwise, it is garbage. It's beautiful garbage. It's fine to listen to audiobooks if that's what you enjoy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it still sounds nice.
It's still fucking fine. As long as you're getting the information, who gives a shit? I've never cracked open a single one of these books here. This is all for clout. Even the comic books, I make people describe them online.
Pick a hill and die on it? I've been calling you out on that for years, and then you're like, no, I read all the books in here.
I haven't read all the books in here. That's a lot of fucking books. I haven't read all of them.
And then other times you'll be like,
I am reading.
haven't read any of these. I just fucking like having the library. Like,
that's clearly a joke.
Sound in my head, by the way.
Yeah, that's clearly a joke, though.
Is it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Do you know how many hundreds of dollars I've spent? Look at all this shit.
Yeah, I know. No, have you considered...
Why would I continue doing it after I have a wife to find a mistress that's really into this shit?
Whoa.
What?
Have you considered that maybe I think so little of you that didn't pass as a joke, and I was just like, yeah, he'd do that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
At least I never thought James Joyce was from fucking ancient times. So
no, I didn't even know about James Joyce. I just thought Ulysses was... I just saw the names, and I was like, you know,
this
Odyssey,
is the Roman version of the
Iliad,
Odyssey.
fucking, and then
that's the Aeneid,
Ulysses,
though.
And I was like, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's fair. But it turns out the Aeneid is the Roman version of the Odyssey.
Yeah, there you go. And there were no skeletons, only farts.
They're in there, but they're more of you have to really know your stuff, and it's explained later. Here, I can show you some works that show you where the skeletons are.
I don't want to hear.
They're literary.
Hotel
they're literary skeletons
of skeletons.